Hoje vamos falar sobre Zelda e para começar a nossa história sobre o universo Zelda, eu vou colocar meu rap do Zelda que é muito louco. Então fiquem aí, assistam Zelda. Tchau!
Shut up! Yeah, my name is Link, man. I'm more well known than Lil Wayne. Oh, you thought my name was Zelda? That's a girl's name. I saved the world like 15 times and saved the princess from demise, and I do it all alone with no help and no advice. Hey, look, listen, an annoying fairy. I'd rather be forced to listen to cousin Katy Perry. I think it's time I got some recognition, don't you think? Legend of Zelda? True that. Legend of Link.
L to the I to the N to the K. Wear tights every day, don't give a damn what you say. Got bigger balls than even evil can evil, and he ain't gonna stop till the world is free of evil.
I'll break all your pots and I best not hear your bitches. I've got the Triforce of courage, bitch, so you better listen. That's right. Call the bush, whacker, and my bank account's maxed out. Got 999 rupees and my leather wallet's packed out. Get back down, hit slack now. The world needs me to attack now. And I'm forced to pay up the ass for these bombs in Castle Town. Just give me some hot containers, let me spin on my ocarina, so I can kick that dumbass can and all the way to Argentina.
L to the I to the N to the K. Wear tights every day, don't give a damn what you say. Got bigger balls than even evil can evil, and he ain't gonna stop till the world is free of evil.
Yo, you low like hell, being a right up to the North Pole. Sam's got a thing for elves, get this marriage and all. You really think saving the princess will convince me you're straight? The bumps and skirt fat is sold 2008.
Oh, snap, it's Ganondorf, check out my style. Batman's cape, Lincoln's beard, were you dressed by a child? You're a ginger with no soul, and you look like a troll. Isn't kidnapping helpless girls getting a little bit old?
You think Zelda's stupid enough to get kidnapped so often? He runs up to my castle in my room and begs to get locked in. Yeah, she's thinking your little deck, you got your curly fairy face. L-I-N-K, more like L-I-N-K.
And it should have been aborted, just like the Jersey Shore. It's a damn lie you told about Zelda, cause she loves my master sword. It's a shame your whole life's in a waste, trying to rule Hyrule. Cause today will be the day known as the day you got screwed.
N to the K. Wear tights every day, don't give a damn what you say. Got bigger balls than even evil can evil, and he ain't gonna stop till the world is free of evil.
To see behind-the-scenes footage and bloopers, click the link in the description below.
Sometimes I need them in the balls.
Then check out the new shirt and get the song on iTunes. Click the subscribe button and get another heart container. Quick, click it. You're dying. You're low in health. Click it.
Boomerangs, bombs, dungeons, magic swords, puzzles, and green tunics. Welcome to The Legend of Zelda. With 20 years of hit titles under its belt, the Legend of Zelda franchise has earned its right to be one of the most popular, influential, and critically acclaimed entities in all of video games. Selling over 47 million units, its familiar characters have become some of Nintendo's biggest icons. Created by Shigeru Miyamoto and inspired by his childhood, wandering the nearby forests of his hometown Kyoto, The Legend of Zelda made its debut in 1987 on the Nintendo Entertainment System. 8-bit gamers were introduced to the young Link, a quiet boy in a green tunic who set out on what would become a never-ending quest to rescue a princess named Zelda. Unlike other games of its day, The Legend of Zelda dropped you in the middle of a gigantic world that was open to explore. From an overhead view, you ventured through the fantastical realm of Hyrule, with no direction or guide. This unconventional structure made The Legend of Zelda one of the first free-roaming games ever created. It was up to you to decide where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do. You could journey into dungeons out of order. Some could only be reached with certain items like the raft, or would be extremely difficult to navigate with only 3 hearts and no bow, but it was up to you to make those choices. Luckily, the Nintendo Fun Club newsletter released a map of the overworld. While it outlined the land of Hyrule screen by screen, giving the players a sense of direction, it didn't take away from the sheer size of the game or its difficulty. The Legend of Zelda pioneered an advanced inventory system and introduced the ability to store dozens of different items used to solve puzzles or battle creatures in real time. Zelda was also the first console game to give players the ability to save their progress via battery-backed memory. This feature alone was a clear sign that the game could not be beaten in a couple of hours. It was one of the largest adventures to date, and held that title for some time afterward. After you explored all of Hyrule, found the magic sword, beat all the dungeons, collected the pieces of the Triforce, defeated the evil Ganon, and rescued Princess Zelda, you had basically beaten the game. But the artists behind Nintendo's first RPG went above and beyond, adding a second quest. Instead of requiring you to play the same game twice, it slightly altered the overworld and dungeons to make them even more challenging. Not only did Zelda's gameplay set new standards for the genre, but its music was unlike anything anyone had heard before on the NES. 2 decades later, it's still one of the most recognizable music cues in all of video games. Even other Nintendo titles like Mario and Metroid have lost their inaugural themes over time, but every Zelda adventure ever made has featured this trademark anthem. All of these polished elements came together in a divine synthesis that can only be rivaled by the joining of the almighty Triforce. The original Legend of Zelda has been copied and imitated time and time again, but few have succeeded in making a game of its caliber, or spawning a franchise as emotionally revered. The following year, Nintendo released Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. It's still the only game in the series to drop the Legend of Zelda title, and the only numeric sequel. Zelda 2 was a vastly different experience. It introduced more role-playing elements like experience points, and swapped the overhead view for a side-scrolling perspective. There were no rupees to collect either, which makes it unlike any Zelda game other than Four Swords Adventures. Zelda 2 was extremely difficult, largely due to the fact that you only had 3 lives, and once those were gone, you had to start all the way back at the tomb of the sleeping princess. The action-based platformer was not what a lot of fans were expecting, but then again, no Zelda game ever is. While considered the black sheep of the franchise due to its fundamental differences, Zelda 2 still introduced many groundbreaking elements that have stayed in the series. The Adventure of Link was the first time our young hero used magic, if his brand new magic meter was full, that is. The 8-bit sequel introduced the hammer, which would remain a necessary tool for Link to use against seemingly immovable objects. Zelda 2 also featured a highly advanced combat system, which created more dynamic battles with armed enemies. You had to outmaneuver their shields to land each strike while trying to block their high and low attacks. Even the non-playable characters were presented in a different fashion. Instead of standing still, hiding in a secret cave waiting to be found, they roamed the streets of their individual towns, wandered in and out of their houses, and played a much more important role in Link's adventure. Grand Theft Auto might have shocked the masses when it replenished your health for sleeping with strangers, but Link was apparently getting lucky 13 years earlier. The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link were 2 of the most popular games on Nintendo's entertainment system. They solidified Link as one of Nintendo's go-to heroes, and spawned toys, breakfast cereals, and even a televised cartoon.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Be sure to catch part 2 of our Legend of Zelda retrospective as we take a look at Zelda on the next-gen console, the Super Nintendo, and go handheld on the Game Boy for Link's Awakening.